It's often possible to speed up the salvage experience in Star Citizen by doubling up with a partner, each with your own responsibilities to divide the tasks and most efficiently tackle the salvage job. Whilst not strictly necessary in the Drake Vulture, the solo salvage ship, there are still efficiencies to be gained by doing so. I'm Forrester, and this gameplay video shows an example of doing exactly that, doubling up as a crew of 2 and taking to the stars to salvage a Hercules. As ever, a special thank you to my brother-in-arms and box Tetris wizard Deli who helped make this video possible. But since there's much salvage to be done, let's get started. And the video starts by taking out the A2 Hercules. This will be the cargo hauler for this trip. As we're doing a 2-person salvage operation, one person will fly the Hercules whilst the other flies the Vulture. A little bit of an elevator dance before heading up. It's probably worth adding for the rest of this video, it will be kind of cut into a single sequence, but I have sped up some parts just to keep the overall length of the video down, but the parts that I've sped up will be clearly marked as ×12 in the bottom left corner. Just like so, ×12 speed. So at this point here, I'm just getting the permission for the M2 to leave, and then a quick look behind to see the ship taking off and departing. I tell you, that never gets old, watching a ship leaving the hangar. So at this point, grabbing a bit of food and drink in case required, before heading back and selecting a salvage contract. Now the server I'm on is a little bit slow here, so I was just checking the accepted to see if the previous one that I'd picked up had gone through, which it hadn't. And for this salvage mission, we are at Mike L1 Lagrange point. There, Crusader, Hercules, A2, that will do the trick. So you know we already have a Hercules in the air, which will be able to store all of that delicious scrap and any cargo aboard. So all that remains is to spawn in the Vulture.
Your vehicle has been
Through the wonders of 12 speed, hop aboard the Vulture, depart the hangar, and make the way the 50 kilometers to the salvage claim. Now, when we got here, we noticed there was another player hanging around in a C2 Hercules. Looked like just a single player. The C2 had plenty of cargo aboard, so we think hopefully worth the risk, and we decided to continue and press on, but just be vigilant, I suppose. There as that C2 is floating around. And so I thought I would just make myself known and just park in front of his ship, just so that he knew that we were here and this was our territory. You might think I'm quite casual here, but ultimately I've got this little Vulture, and I've also got the backup of an M2 Hercules, should it be required. So to begin with, you'll see a pretty standard salvage operation. I'm going to be moving my own boxes as the filler station is filled up. And that's because Deli, my partner in crime, is actually on the other Hercules. And what Deli will be doing, as I just check chat to see if this person was trying to talk to us, what Deli will be doing is moving the boxes, the weapons, stripping the Hercules of all of the stuff that is of value, whilst I start work on stripping the hull. And then once we've got everything of value off it and it's just the hull stripping that remains, at that point Deli will hop in the back of the Vulture and help move boxes. So until then, it's pretty much just standard Salvage gameplay. You might notice if you salvaged in patch 320, things are looking much healthier in patch 321. The salvage heads are processing at a much more acceptable rate. It's quite satisfying once again. There we have it. So, full box. A little bit of juggling to do at the back of the ship. So aside from the fact that I've not touched anything on the salvage contract, I've not gone in and got the cargo, not gone and got the weapons, this gameplay at the moment is mostly akin to kind of solo Drake Vulture sort of gameplay. Hit the hull until boxes come out, move the boxes downstairs. So far, so good. So on the basis that you've kind of seen the core of that salvage gameplay, I'm going to speed up the rest of the footage. You'll notice it's more of the same, stripping the hull, and then shortly thereafter moving down, moving the boxes. All this time, a second person, so in this case Deli, is stripping the hull of all of the weapons and all of the cargo so that we're not losing that. So there's value in doing that. I do find when you watch this back in 12 times speed, it seems so quick and efficient. And I've got to admit, it is one of those activities in Star Citizen where time just kind of drifts away and don't necessarily realise where it goes. So at this point here, I'm just backing up to the Hercules because I've probably got enough cargo to be worth unloading onto the main ship. And I've also got one rogue box who isn't where he should be. Yet back there. So many of you will know it is possible to fill up way more than the cargo grid on the Vulture. I've heard some quite scary stories about how many boxes some of you have been able to fit in there. But for me, I prefer to just use the cargo grid when we're doing something like this because bouncing boxes can be a hazard, and I don't really have time for hazards. So I would much rather just load up the 12 and then call that enough to transfer it to the main cargo ship. Keep everything attached to the grid, no floating hazards. And there were 2 crates on the back of the Vulture from a previous salvage run, so they have also been transferred across. Some of you have mentioned on previous videos as well, to avoid issues when selling cargo, the way that you stack it is really important. So stacking essentially the same stuff together really helps to make sure that the cargo can sell okay. So that's something that Deli is doing over on the M2, making sure that everything is stacked appropriately, efficiently, so that when we come to sell, we're not going to have any issues. And then one last box in the hopper. and send it over. And again, even just transferring the cargo across to the mothership is so much easier when there's somebody aboard the mothership, kind of bringing the cargo in and stacking it up as you go along. So I talked about some of the efficiencies of working as a team, and that's true for so many of the little jobs. So back in the pilot seat of the Vulture and carry on salvaging in ×12 speed. So again, Delhi's still got a few bits and bobs to grab from the A2, so it's still just a solo operation on the Vulture, but that is saving us both time in the long run. As you see weapons kind of flying off the ship, they're going to get stored safely and sold later on. Watching that hull dissolve at ×12 speed, just fantastic. And at this point the server is really starting to struggle, so if you'll see me opening the chat, if I know that the server is not performing, I'll often open chat, and that will be to see people inevitably complaining, saying, is this a 30k, is this an issue? So at this point here, I'm going to line up the ship to do another cargo unload onto the M2, and that's because Delhi has informed me that he has completed his hull stripping, so he'll be able to sit in the back and help move boxes, and that's really going to speed up the salvage side of things. I know more of you asked to see more external views, so there was a nice little external view there of reversing up the Vulture, ready to unload that cargo. And you'll notice we're really not full up at this point, but given that I had to stop to bring Delhi on board anyway, it made sense to just offload the boxes and then we'll be starting fresh. And this is, I should add as well, this is our first trip out together, salvaging together. So we're still kind of learning a little bit, working out the responsibilities, kind of chatting throughout to figure out what's where, optimize our workflow. As boxes are flying. So at this point, while Delhi finishes stacking the boxes, I'm going to head out to the A2 and just close the door on there, and also pick up these weapons that have drifted. M7A cannon must be worth something. Maybe a bit less now. There we are, ready to go. So my job, close the door on the A2. That's just to make salvage a little bit easier. Sorry, I got distracted again. Just wanted to make sure that Delhi had those weapons. We'll get the door later. Right, so back in the big chair, but this time got some support in the back to move the boxes. So at some point I should have really swapped over so you can see, but hopefully you'll see just by the fact that how quickly these boxes are kind of chalking up, and you don't have to get out of the seat, you just, one box is done, next, one box is done. Have to let me know in the comments if you would like to see what it looks like from the downstairs perspective. Deli told me that you need to have something to do, but actually it's not too long to wait for boxes, and you can see a visual progress indicator, and he said there's a big flashing red light if you were a little bit distracted with the boxes coming out. You will be made very aware that it's on its way. So you can see, like, just from the this is times 12 speed, so it does certainly seem faster, but actually just watching as these boxes are all kind of popping out, it is definitely quick. Try and get some of the materials from the ramp. The ramps on these ships are a little bit awkward. And there we are, we're full up again already. So quick with a second person moving those boxes around. The other thing that I was meaning to do from a multi-crew salvage perspective was at some point dig out the reclaimer and do some reclaimer salvage. Again, let me know in the comments if that's something that you would like to see. Or not, I suppose. Or not. Right, move those boxes back, taking care not to move them into Delhi. Oh, slight issue, as can happen. I parked slightly too close. And so I'm going to go and switch the engines on. And just rescue the ship from drifting. What happened there was when we deployed the ramp from the Hercules, the tip of the ramp struck the Vulture, and so the momentum of that has given each ship just a small rotation. But when you're trying to offload boxes and things like that, that needs to be fixed. So just hop back in, get that fixed, and carry on. There we go, that'll do. So I've started getting a hunger and water meter now on the bottom. I completely forgot, so I went and bought food and drink to load onto the Vulture. Completely forgot to actually do it. But we should have plenty of time. We're kind of halfway through scrapping this Hercules now, and we're at the faster half because we're just going to two-person it. So should be fairly straightforward herein. I'm not worried about running out. Plus we're only 50k from the station. If the situation demands, we could easily head back if required. So even this part, just flinging crates across with one person moving them over and the next person moving them into place on the ship, just so much quicker. You don't quite realise the time it takes when you're only doing half the job. As I almost mess up my half of the job. So at this point, I will remember my duties and close the door on the A2. Not get distracted. I kind of set out and I thought, I wonder how quickly we could completely strip and salvage a Hercules. In the end, it ended up being just getting lost in the gameplay, which is not not the worst. Well, nearly getting lost in an A2 here. But actually kind of you get so caught up in playing the game, and I like that about Salvage. I do. It's one of those things that you just like have to get the next bit, and you almost lose track. Immersion, some would say. Float aboard the Vulture. I've got somebody to close the rear ramp for me. Amazing. Thank you very much, sir. So at this point we've pretty much got the top half of the hull all salvaged, so just getting some of the detailing around the back, which can be a bit awkward. Those rear tail wings? I suppose they are wings, yeah, they probably generate a bit of lift. Well, they don't at the moment, but they might in future. And the detailing is the kind of fiddly bit. But this is one of the nice things about salvaging a Hercules as opposed to salvaging, for example, a Hammerhead or especially a Starfarer, is the hull itself is quite smooth, which makes the salvaging a lot easier. Much easier. Just watching all of that dissolve in front of your eyes, it's a sight to behold. It is. I'm guessing if you're watching to this point, you're probably the same as me, which is it is quite satisfying seeing a times 12 speed Hercules just dissolving. Incredible. So at this point, we've got a full cargo grid again. We're most of the way through the salvage job now, so we know that this is probably... We've got this to unload, and then we'll probably have one more for whatever else we can get off of that hull. But the server is starting to show signs of straining a little bit. Oops. As we're salvaging, sometimes the progress is getting zeroed out. So at this point, I'm also thinking, let's get the job finished. Get somewhere where we know it's going to save the cargo that we've got. As I'm ejected out of the ship for going down a ladder. Classic. More boxes to move. More boxes to move. So for these scrap jobs, the way that we're doing it here with completely stripping the hull, most of the money to be made is from the scrap. So that's going to be the bulk of what we make. Then there's the extra from the weapons, which is worth a bit, and the variable extra from the cargo aboard the A2, which is also worth, well, it could be a bit, it could be a lot. I know there are lots of people that will just go out and grab the cargo. We'll see how long that remains an option for. But for this is the proper salvage experience. Getting the RMC scrap, having that available to sell. You can see we're a good way through salvaging this A2 at this point, and we've still got loads of room on the M2 for extra cargo, extra scrap. So you could quite conceivably do potentially even a couple of these jobs back to back without going back to port, if you remember to bring your food and drink with you. And you'd have room for it. And the M2 doesn't have quite the same storage as the C2, for example, so if you had a C2 Hercules, you could store even more on there. Just observing the stacking of boxes. Very satisfying. Good work, Deli. Good work. Oh. There we are. Then realised that I was too busy rubbernecking. Have to get back up to the top and fulfil my end of the bargain. And we'll continue the salvage. When we do come to sell up, there were a few boxes on the Hercules when we set off. Those boxes were a single prospector worth of mining run, so that will give a slight bump to the money that we make, but single prospector. It wasn't Quantanium or anything like that, so it's just a bit of cash, bit of extra. At 12 times speed, you can see here we're kind of on the underside, making our way towards the front of the Hercules. There isn't too much left. Sometimes the progress bar is zeroed out rather unhelpfully. So at this point, largely just grabbing what I can that's relatively accessible. See if I can fill out the last couple of boxes. At this point, really straining hard to try and get the last bits, and then the server wiped out my progress on the box. Anything else that we can grab? Nope, I think we're going to call that quits, otherwise we'd be there all day. There's some more juggling around. I'm getting scanned. The advocacy have rocked up and said, what's going on here? And so then we'll move back, we'll move the extra boxes. Make sure we've not lost any. Move the scrap up on a board. So at this point, because we were just doing the one run, I'm comfortable to just ditch the vulture, really. Don't need it. Close the doors. Here we are. Get a nice shot of the two of us in front of our cargo haul. Tractor beams in hand. Sorry, we should have worn matching clothes, really. Those two handsome devils. Right. Then up to the top, and we'll go to sell up. So, quite feasibly, the second person could have gone and flown the vulture back. At this point in Star Citizen, because it doesn't really matter, I often can't be bothered. It sounds really bad to say, but the vulture has a relatively short reclaim timer. So I just know when I'm back at Mike L1, I'll hit claim and that'll be that, and I won't need to worry about it. There's nothing of value on the ship. I've got maybe half a crate of generated stuff, but there's nothing in the inventory or anything like that, so adios Vulture. And then we'll go sell up at Microtech. This is why I quite like the Mike L1, Mike L2 route. You can usually find some sort of salvage at one of the Lagrange points, and then it's a short hop, especially in something with as fast a quantum drive as the Hercules, short hop to Microtep for New Babbage, and sell up. There's your times 12 speed. Down to New Babbage. I initially thought, I'll go and sell up at the Commons, but given what the server's been doing, I thought, it'd be safer to try and get a landing pad and land to save the cargo. And then, as if the server knew that's what I was doing, it gave a 30k just as I landed safely in the spaceport. So, at this point, respawned onto a new server, hoping, beyond all hope, that the M2 is okay. I did notice by going into the inventory that M2 was on the list, so I'm hoping that means that everything is saved. As I head over to Center Mass, select the Cell tab, select the M2, and I have got the weapons that we've salvaged on there, so that's a good sign. So selling all of these weapons from an A2 is worth just under 100k Alpha UEC, which, when you are at the A2 taking the weapons off one by one to put on your own ship, feels very tedious. But actually, when there's two of you tackling it, 100k extra, 50k each, that's pretty good. And then head out to the TDD to sell the cargo. Really like Microtech. So, commodity shop, select the M2, and then it goes, oh, you've got no cargo. And I'm, okay. So this is creeping me out a bit, but I know that the weapons sold okay. So what I've decided to do is go and spawn in the ship and have a look on the back deck. Try spawning in the ship, and if the cargo is there, restoring it, and then going back to almost force it to remember what was on the cargo grid. And these are some of the challenges that Star Citizen players encounter. And there's a moment of truth as this ramp comes down, but it's there. There's cargo there. I can't understate the relief that I felt when I saw all this cargo in the cargo bay. So close the door, head back up, store the ship, and then we'll head back to the TDD for selling up. For those wondering, I did split the profits here, 50-50 with Delhi. I'm not one to hold on to the cash. Moment of truth. There we are, it's on there. Jolly good. So start with, we'll probably start with the RMC, a scrap. We got a good haul here. 56 SCU of scrap. That's pretty good going. 431k. You won't complain about that. $105k of Taranite. And some of this, especially some of the more valuable materials,
could have come from my mining run before, so this is not all pure salvage, but the majority of this will be salvage. 135k in Bexelite. Low value copper. The Laranite. I just realised that you're all probably, if you're at this stage watching, you're literally watching me sell. So here's a summary. Scrapped weapons worth 100k, the scrap 431k, the cargo 335k, for a total of 866k. That was probably over a couple of hours and spread across 2 people. So not the most profitable, but certainly not bad either. That probably leaves me to say, if you enjoyed this gameplay video, pressing the like button will let me know I should make more like this, and if you're not yet subscribed, given that you got this far, you probably want to do that too, so that YouTube will know to show you more videos like this in future. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.